It's time to start asking yourself where your pride and how your pride is killing your blessings whenever they do come or whenever they do arise. I understand that as a man today, it's difficult to have standards. And the reason I think most men find it so difficult to have standards is, well, there's two main reasons. Number one is because most of the women nowadays will not meet that standard. And the second reason is because they can't control their lust to begin with. They need to have that that trip to the Pink Palace. They need that trip. And a lot of the times that's one of the reasons why semen retention is going to be so powerful for you, because you learn how to discipline that side of you so much more. We're not meant to, I genuinely believe, we're not really meant to sleep around as human beings. We're just not meant to do it. Are we capable of it? 100%. Obviously, we're very much capable of it. But is it good for us? Clearly, the answer is no. Clearly. Because the relationships that are in our society are the worst that they've ever been. Now, the title of this video is called "You Can't Please Them All" on semen retention. The reason that I have this as the title is because something that I've noticed is that the longer I go on semen retention, which by this point it's been about a year and a half, almost to the day. I started May of 2022, and of course, I've had wet dreams throughout the process, but those don't count as relapse for me. I don't consider those relapse because I'm unconscious. And I tell the same thing to all of the people that are in my consultations that have wet dreams or anything like that. It's not a relapse. Now, depending on how you wake up from the dream is going to tell you two different things. If you wake up from the dream feeling a little bit depleted, or you feel like your mind is a bit foggy, or you don't have that much energy, then you're probably doing too much of edging. And edging is looking or gazing at women or things, or scrolling through social media too much, where you happen to see like Instagram models or whatever. It's that kind of a thing. Then you have the other side of the semen retention, the wet dream, where you wake up feeling refreshed, you wake up feeling calm, and that's a sign that you're actually healing in your purification path. And this is something that I've mentioned before on these videos of semen retention. And seeing that it is Semen Retention Sunday, I'll say it again. It's that the best way to heal from any kind of sexual sin is through purification and purity, specifically within the mind, body, and soul, through celibacy. This goes for male and females. But one thing I've particularly noticed over the past few months is that I'm disappointing a lot of different people. And it's not necessarily because of something I'm doing wrong. It's that I'm doing everything right. And it's not like in a prideful way or pompous way. This is a way of showing that every experience that we have is going to be a moral lesson of some kind. And a lot of the experiences I've had as of the last few months have led to me holding to my standard and holding to the position that I am, and letting down a lot of different women that want to be in my life. And it's not that I don't have compassion for these women. It's not that I don't care about them to some degree, because I want to see people be better. I want to see people start to make the right choices. But sometimes you got to learn how to stop giving to people that are just going to give your love away. It's like these women, some of the women out here, they're blocking their own blessings as well through their pride. A lot of the times the modern women in our generation thinks that it's the men that are not capable or competent. And while that may be true for most modern men, it's also the case that when they do come across a man that's different, when they realize that, wow, this guy's a different animal. You know, this guy this guy is an animal. He can't be controlled. Holy cow. This guy is different. They all of a sudden, because they don't see that very often, they end up sabotaging the relationship in some way. Like some women play hard to get, and oftentimes the women that play hard to get are, for me, it's an indication that they're actually the easiest to get. And the reason that they play hard to get is to try to boost their own self-esteem. And men do this too. You know, not to the extent, though, that some women do it, but men will do this too. And it's better for a man to play hard to get than a female. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned in a previous video last week, women have respect for men that don't fall in love easy. And I want to make it clear that I'm not promoting the possibility of any man to fall in love with a woman. You can have love for a woman, have love for women, for sure. Respect them if they're worthy of being respected. But you don't need to love them as far as a falling in love romantic way. You can have love for them romantically, but you don't need to fall in love with them. And the reason for that is because we will lose our logistical thinking as men in the process. I've seen far too many men fall in love, quote unquote, with a woman, and then suddenly they have everything that they thought they wanted taken away from them. And so you will be hard to forget on semen retention. You don't need to worry about that. There's that saying of, when she plays hard to get, I play hard to forget. And I don't really like that, because I don't think we should ever play games with each other in relationships, but I understand what the intention behind the saying is. And you will be unforgettable on semen retention, because you're carrying a kind of power within you that most people don't have. Most men don't have this kind of power. They don't have the ability to even withhold from releasing their seed for like 3 days. Like, most men can't even make it that long. So for you to be someone that, if you're 14 to 30 days in, you're automatically going to be in the top 5% as far as your testosterone and just your boosting of energy, your focus, your discipline in general. And it's going to be a process, right? Like, something that I've noticed with a lot of men that I've done consultations with is, once they get to about 30 to 60 days, they have this period of like, okay, things are really changing. And then once they get into like the 90-day mark, that's when things start to, like, they either go back to the relapse because it starts to get complicated or difficult to like withstand the temptation. Because something that I noticed about, and this isn't going to be for everybody, I don't think, but between the 3 to 6 month mark, I had some of the toughest temptations that I ever had during that time of just purifying. And it was almost like it was leftover karma, you could say, or leftover reaping of what I was reaping before. And now I'm going, or sorry, sowing of, how do I say this? I'll just leave it at karma. I was reaping what I was sowing. We'll leave it at that. I was reaping what I was sowing during those 3 to 6 months of temptation from my past. And it was like God was giving me this test again to see if I would pass the test. And I did pass the test, praise God. And from there, I was able to move myself in a much more disciplined way. Like, I didn't have the need to even look a female's way. And if I did, I would look her straight into the eyes. I would be bold as a lion, and there would be no fear whatsoever, because I know for a fact at this point I am a more powerful being. And I'm not trying to say that like I'm better or anything like that, but as a man, I am a more powerful being than any woman out there. As far as like the biological prerogative. I'm not saying that like again, I'm not saying I'm better or anything like that. I'm not saying that that I'm better than all women or anything of the sorts. I'm just saying that if I really wanted to, I know what I'm capable of if there was any kind of confrontation with a woman, physically speaking, and even emotionally at this point. I was healed from the trauma of my past and I was being purified in the flesh, and it was as if all of the relationships that I ever had before that were being purified as well. And now I'm at a point a year and a half later where the only kind of temptations and struggles that I have are in the moment. Like they're currently like flowing within this life. I don't live in the past anymore. And I'm not afraid of the future. Is the future uncertain? 100%. But I'm doing everything that I can to ensure the probability of what I want to see bring about and be brought into fruition of this universe, doing so. And I'm doing that. And I'm doing what I need to do to make those fruits I'm doing what I need to do to bear those fruits. And one of the ways that I've noticed is that I'm disappointing others is specifically for staying on the grind. A lot of women won't like that. They'll like it. They'll actually love it, but they also don't like it. And so they look at you with these puppy dog eyes of wishing that they could be in your life, but you just know that they don't hold up to the standard. Now, what exactly am I talking about in regard to the standard? Well, in last week's video, I made a list of certain kind of principles that you may have in your relationship with women. But one standard that I have started to implement more and more recently is that I'm not romantically compatible with women that are in relationships or that are talking to more than one man at a time. I'm not compatible romantically with those kinds of women that are talking to multiple men romantically and that are already in relationships. Why have I started to set this boundary more and more recently? Because it keeps freaking happening. These women end up being married. In fact, there was one woman that I've seen at the gym where she's wore a ring before. She's wore a ring. And I've seen her with her husband, which, I mean, I presume it's her husband because she has the ring and he had the ring or he had a ring and she was kissing him. So I assume it's her husband. And all of a sudden, last week, she approached me and I started to, like, I noticed that she didn't have the ring on and her husband wasn't around. And she didn't seem like she was trying to flirt or anything, like specifically. She was very covert. But overall, she was fairly feminine in how she approached, and she was very, I would say, supportive as well. And she had like a modest outfit. Like she seemed to check these green boxes at first sight, but I know for a fact I've seen this woman with a ring kissing somebody else with another ring on. So it's like, what did I do in that situation? I reciprocated the energy. I mirrored the energy, but I didn't push it because why would I want to do that? And like, I'll be kind, I'll be courteous, I'll be cordial, but why would I pursue a woman that's married? There's no need for that. I'm not going to commit adultery in my heart. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. And I could tell that when I cut the conversation off short, she seemed like confused. And this has happened multiple times in the past, but I'm just speaking about the most recent one. And again, there's been other women that have just crossed this boundary. You know, they'll be talking to me, flirting with me. This was a few months ago. Talking with me, flirting with me, acting like I'm the only man in her life. And then all of a sudden, like, two other guys pop up and they're like buddy buddy and they're flirting in front of me. And it's like, see ya. I'm out. And that's all I have to say. So at this point, it seems like for most men, it's a numbers game. And I don't like saying that. I really don't. But some of us godly men out here, it's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack, for sure, depending on where we live and who we communicate with and where we go and how we go about our business. But it's almost like, in a sense, we're feeling as though we're alienated from our own blessing. Like, we're being alienated from this blessing that we're supposed to have. Like, we thought this was our birthright, right? As men, as godly men, we thought this was our birthright to have a righteous relationship with a woman. But it sure doesn't seem like a lot of the women out here are going to be loyal. And I've never had this kind of attention from women before, prior to the last like year and a half on semen retention. Never, ever. And at first it was a bit of a shock, to be honest. And I did feel bad, like having to turn these women down. But now it's like, well, what do you bring to the table besides sex? Like, I just don't know anymore. Like, and sometimes we men, we won't even know the difference. Like, are you going to be someone that opens their legs for everybody, or are you not? Sometimes we can't tell the difference because you may claim to be a righteous, Jesus-loving woman, and yet you dress like a prostitute when you're out and about. Something's not adding up, ladies. Something's not adding up. So look for the modest women. And look, this is another thing. Us men are going to know whether or not a woman is truly promiscuous or not in the end. Like, truth will be revealed in that sense. And so there's no need for us men to be in a hurry for anything that are godly men that are on semen retention. We have no need for the rush because we'll be okay with not wanting to start the actual sexual intimacy until we know this is a woman that we would be able to be in a relationship long term with. And that's just the way it's going to be. So I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.